us, but uh, for the schools who have not registered with us, we would like to also introduce this concept to you, let you know what this concept is all about, and what we will be, what is something that we are doing different. So I would like to request Ram, if is it in screen share? If not, can you help me do a screen share of the presentation?
No, it's not.
It's on?
Not yet, Swarna.
No. Okay.
Go ahead, Swarna.
Thank you very much, Ram. So today, as part of inclusion, we are calling something called Inclusive United Nations. You would have understood the term inclusion, although we would be explaining the other terminologies. But as part of inclusion, we are also having the interpretation in Hindi. If anybody wants to hear interpretation, kindly click the globe symbol and choose Hindi, and you could hear this meeting in Hindi. With that, we begin. So we would have a welcome and introduction, and then we would talk about what we do as Pratyek and as Niners Mind. And then we would have your introductions that you can share. And then a small presentation that we would have for you on the Inclusive United Nations, talking about what is in-U.N, why we need it, and also about we would be sharing with you a 2-day flow, like how we are planning to proceed with this Inclusive United Nations event. The event flow will be discussed with you. And then we would have the Inclusive UN video played for you, after which we can have a already asked questions. Like we would share the question and answers that we predicted you may have at our end. And then post which you can have your questions. And then we would discuss next steps. Finally, vote of thanks would be shared. So that would be the flow of today's meeting. So to describe about Pratyek. Pratyek, it's a child rights organization empowering children to speak and act on equity, environment, and justice. And Niners Mind is a child-led advocacy campaign calling on governments to ensure children's rights and deliver on the UN global goals. And in Niners Mind, we believe that it's nothing about us without us. As in, like, we are advocating for children. So if we are advocating for children, it's nothing about children without children. And in our organization, children are not just beneficiaries. They are leaders and decision makers. We work for the last, lost, and for the least, committed to reaching the most marginalized, ensuring no child is left behind. So we would like to request you to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, your organization or school, and where you are from, probably your state and city. So if you can put that in the chat, it would be really great. Yeah, Robin, sir, from St. Patrick's. Welcome, sir. Ranjit, sir, welcome from Stephen High School. Thank you, Steve. Priyanka, ma'am, welcome from St. Anthony. Vijay Das, sir, welcome from Holy Child Auxilium. DEI School. Welcome to you, ma'am. Oh, Sharon, ma'am, welcome from Presentation Convent. Stephen School, Chandigarh, welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. I could see Ghaziabad, UP. So, um, yes, Didi. So, glad to see a lot of schools from Delhi, Maharashtra, UP. Thank you so much for all putting that. Bihar, wow, we also have school from Bihar. Good to know. So many states. So with that, I'm so happy to really see a lot of chats and a lot of schools being present. And thank you everyone for your presence. I will slowly take you right now to what is about in-UN. So inclusive United Nations means in-UN means it's inclusive United Nations. So you would have all heard about model United Nations, but it is going to be a simulated model United Nations is the simulation. But in the in-UN, we will have the actual advocacy taking place. In a moment, I will come to you the difference between the MUN and in-UN, but in-UN, inclusive United Nations, is basically, a version of model United Nations, but is not the traditional model United Nations. Yeah, and we at Pratyek invite schools across India to be part of this inclusive United Nations. And this is a national child-led platform where children directly engage with real-world UN processes and government mechanisms. Unlike traditional model United Nations, in-UN it's not a simulation, as I told you. It's an inclusive, solution-driven, multilingual space rooted in equity and lived experiences of children. Children here shape concrete recommendations for the post-2030 Global Development Agenda and present them directly to embassies, UN bodies, and government representatives. You may all wonder why this in-UN is. So this is a unique opportunity for students to experience authentic advocacy at the global and national level. So they could really experience how this in-UN is at the global level, and how the UN mechanisms function, and they could really feel and understand it, and not just that, they can act on it, and engage with real mechanisms such as Universal Periodic Review, which is UPR. And it usually, just to also be brief about it, these UPR reviews happen once in 4.5 years, reviewing the human rights of the countries. Voluntary national review, and this also reviews once in 5 years the progress of every country's sustainable development goals. And then we would have COP, Conference of Parties, Indian Parliament. All these mechanisms would be experienced by children. And this is a platform that goes beyond debate. It's about real change led by children. That's why we are requesting for in-UN. I now invite Steve to talk about Earth Charter.
So the Earth Charter was designed in about year 2000, and was supposed to feed into the Millennium Development Goals and then the SDGs later on. But it was a document that wasn't accepted totally at that stage, and now I think the world is ready for the depth and the integrity of this entire document called the Earth Charter. It's designed by the UN itself, but it's meant to be more holistic. It talks about ecological integrity and our connection with the earth, socio-economic justice and development. It talks about democracy, non-violence, and peace. And it talks about respect and care for the community of life. So it's not just about human beings, it's not anthropocentric, but it's earth-centric. We put child rights also in that dimension because we're a child rights-based organization, and children are going to be at the heart of this. But if you look at the center of the flower that we've placed here, is presence. Presence is about connecting to something bigger than ourselves. Some people in some traditions call it a God, some call it cosmic energy, divine, trinity, whatever words you have for that one, is a representation of the mystery we call God. And I believe that even atheists in some way connect with something bigger than themselves. And so we're all invited to connect up with that presence through it all, and then branch out the petals of ecological justice, social justice, democracy, and respect for the earth. Over to you, Swarna Lakshmi. Incidentally, Swarna Lakshmi is our global coordinator. She connects up with all the global issues across the world, and she's leading this inclusive UN. Over to you, Swarna.
Thank you very much, Steve. So with that, I'm taking you to how the event flow would be, as in like for the 2 days, how the days would look like. So day one would have registration, icebreakers, and it would have mindfulness circle. And then you would have opening plenary, where you would have UN and then you would have children divided according to team-wise and theme-wise, where they would discuss UN mechanisms, child rights and Earth Charter would be discussed. And then they would have culture coffee. So culture coffee, as in they would have, uh, children from across India would be participating in this, and they would be sharing their snacks, their regional snacks, and that would be there would be a cultural coffee. And then again, there would be a zone group discussion, like thematic wise, the group discussions will be there. And then um, it would be in a fun way that we would engage children in terms of theater of the oppressed. And then comic strips will be there where they could talk about their problems in terms of drawings. And then peer moderated caucus, where children can form their statements based on which they can also move forward to the recommendations that they wanted to present to the higher officials, including the ambassadors. And then they would have reflections and practice for the final event, and then have a cultural evening and dinner, and their regional talents could be showcased in that. And then at night, probably they would, not late at night, but right after the dinner and all their evening portion is done, children would be sitting and finalizing their draft recommendations, would work on the recommendations, draft recommendations. And there are 2 days. So this IN-U.N program, just to let you know that this IN-U.N program will happen for 2 days. One is on the 19th and the 20th of November. So the 19th of November would be day one, and that's what I just described you. And in the day one, we would have all these things. I mean, we just don't have time, so it's a little jam-packed, but we would very much appreciate the schools who have already registered, and the schools who are going to be interested and who would be registering soon with us to really support your children in this regard. And it's going to be a very good opportunity. Day one would be basically understanding and preparation for day two. So then day two would be circles of commitment. So basically, we would have welcome and finalization of statements would be there, like whatever the statements children prepared would be finalized. And then whatever the UN mechanisms that they were doing in the day one, that mechanisms would be presented. Whatever they decided in the mechanisms would be presented. And then it would be along with their peers. And now this time they would be presenting whatever they arrived as a solution through their UN mechanisms. They would be presenting it to the ambassadors and experts, child rights experts. And then this would be like round two culture coffee, where they would be participating with children across the nation, and there'd be photos. And then negotiation and refinement and consent would be there, like children's recommendations would be negotiated. So as you do in the MUN process, which would be a simulation, here you would be doing a real negotiation and refinement and consent. We would start voting on the recommendations. But this time, the voting would not be based on a majority voting. Every time people would be voting based on majority. But we at Pratyek believe that majority would not be a deeper democracy. The deeper democracy would be to help children make decisions based on consent, based on acceptance. And that's what we would be voting upon. And of course, we would also be having sessions on that. And then way forward. And then we would be discussing the way forward. And then we would have the final advocacy event, including which would include speeches from performances of children, appealing video, and then release of few anthems that we would be having. And finally, we would have closing. So the output of this would be child-led recommendations to UN or embassies and ministries would be presented. Multilingual public report would be given. Media and embassy follow-ups would be done. So all these would be the outputs of this event. So I'm just going to share what to bring for the IN-U.N. So it would be the day one would be school uniform, or if your NGO has any t-shirts, we would recommend that your children bring the t-shirts. And if your school has any uniform, they can bring uniform. It could be of any uniform, any school uniform. I mean, any days, if you have a uniform for any specific day, it could be for any day, but your school can decide that. Day two would be cultural and traditional outfits, but it doesn't have to be really, super grand and all, as long as it's, simple and it represents your tradition. That's what is important, because we believe that India is not just, India doesn't consist of only one particular population, one particular people. We believe that India is made up of different culture, different background, different region, religion, language. India is beyond everything. So that's what we believe, and therefore we would really recommend that your children bring cultural outfits. So the first, and then 4 simple gifts we would want them to bring. It could be small, but anything of your regional representation would be great. And then regional snack would be appreciated. And any notebook and pen would be much appreciated, and their water bottle and personal belongingness. And the children can also bring their creative contributions. And then we would appreciate if your students could make a comic strip, and that could be made with, a chart could be divided into 4 quadrants, where the left top corner could have a drawing of a problem that the children face. And the right top corner could have a statistics about the problem, and the right bottom corner could have the vision. What would be your vision if this problem is solved? So probably the children don't even need to fill the statistics. If they can just fill the problem and as well as their vision, the rest they can come here and do it. This would be a preparation that we would recommend. And any artwork or stories to their problem would be great, so that we can just put it in a display. So IN-U.N versus traditional MUN. So now let me take you through the differences between what is IN-U.N and what is MUN. What is the difference between that? You may all wonder, well, MUN is already happening. Why is this IN-U.N? So the difference would be this. So the format would be, it would be country simulation plus debate. But in the inclusive UN, it would be real UN tracks plus real child issues. So in the MUN, you would have just debates and countries simulation. And every person would be given a country. But here, children are the diplomats. They are the diplomats of their own lived experiences, and they would be encouraged to speak. out of the experiences that they've had, out of the passion that they have. But in the inclusive UN, I mean, it would be mainly the MUN would be mainly for privileged and English speaking, but in the IN-U.N, it would be inclusive across identities. You would have persons with disabilities coming, persons with different identities, different backgrounds, different milieus will be joining. And in the MUN, people would win awards. But here, more than winning awards, inclusive UN is about impacting the real world policy. In-UN is based on English or maybe Hindi, but actually in-UN would be based on multilingual and sign language with sign language interpretation possible. In the MUN, you would have judges and prizes, but here it would be peer feedback and consent-oriented process. In the MUN, it would be debates and papers. And it's a simulated model, whereas in the IN-UN, we would have storytelling, dialogues, visuals, and engaged children. But in the MUN, there would be the resolutions would be there, but it would be more kind of resolutions. But in the IN-UN, it would be actionable recommendations. In the MUN, there would be competition that would be given priority, whereas in the IN-UN, there would be cooperation and inclusion. So that is the difference between IN-UN and MUN. So we will just give you the event. As I told you, the event would be happening on 19th and 20th November. So location, we will soon be confirming. And then before this event, we would really request the children to be attending 5 online preparatory sessions are to be attended. We can soon confirm the dates. It would be really mandatory for all students who are joining us on ground so that they would really understand, because we only have 2 days, 19th and 20th. So therefore, we'll have to prepare the students on the UN mechanisms and introduce them to the concepts. So therefore, it would be really helpful if they attend the, sorry, it's not 5, it's actually 6 online sessions. And 3 are really absolute mandatory. And for 3 of the sessions, the children can even watch the recordings. But again, the children need to listen to that. Outstation schools should plan to arrive on November 18th and depart on November 21st. And there are some nomination guidelines. Each school is invited to nominate a team of 2 students. One student needs to be between class 8 and 12 with leadership potential and interest in social or environmental issues. One student from a vulnerable background it could be from your school community or from your school outreach. But that child needs to be representing a vulnerable community. So by vulnerability, by which we mean that either the child would be, exposed to poverty, or your child would be facing a very difficult family situation that the child needs to be in court. Right. So these are some of the vulnerabilities we mean, and we would appreciate such kind of vulnerable students being present. And if your school cannot identify such a student, Pratyek will help facilitate. And the teams must be accompanied by one adult escort who can support with logistics and carry the work forward. Especially, we would appreciate the school teacher to accompany the children. Kindly ensure that they are not the parents of your children. And also the teacher who accompanies the child. Let's say the teacher is accompanying 2 children and one child is vulnerable, one child is from your school. If the the children could be belonging to any language background, but the teacher who accompanies with the children needs to know the language of the children, and as well as Hindi or English mandatorily. That would be really appreciated, so that they can, communicate with the children and between us and the children back and forth. I mean, let's say, for example, if you're bringing a child who is hearing impaired and who requires sign language interpretation, we would appreciate the teacher knowing sign language, the teacher accompanying the child knowing sign language and as well as English or Hindi. And the children who participate in this IN-U.N would receive certificates. So all participating children would receive certificates endorsed by national and international organizations. So, I mean, it's not, I mean, regardless of who the child is, as long as the child participates, they would receive the certification. And so with this, we would like to, we have come to the end of all the explanations. So here, before I move on to anything, Steve, do you have anything to add? Before we play the video, I request you, if you have anything to add, kindly feel free to.
Thank you, Swarna. So firstly, this entire program is meant to help children or give children a platform where they can influence the world's biggest policy document on development that is going to be framed from the year 2027 onwards. But because we want children to be at the heart of all these policy making, we are beginning 2 years ahead of the world leaders with a small little heads up for children to and a head start to basically give them a sense of the UN, a sense of what children who are going to be uh, the 100% of the world's population in a while, and we probably will be out of the way. But they would probably be bearing the impact of our decision making. So we want them to be part of the decision making right now. Um, yeah, so it's focused on the SDGs, which we are already calling INDGs as an inclusive development goals. We're going to look out after all the admission forms are filled. We're going to look out for representations from one state, one union territory, and sometimes more in certain particular zones. But we've already got the representation from NGO world and 80 NGOs about children from across the country, representing all states and all union territories of the country are already coming in through our sponsorship. Uh, and they would represent the most marginalized voices of Dalits and tribals and rural children and those living in Andaman Nicobar Islands and Ladakh and UK and JK, Jammu and Kashmir, and so on. Swana did refer to the night sessions. Those are only for adults to put together the recommendation of children and to review the program. The children will have a good night's sleep on both days. So when you're choosing the students, it doesn't have to be the uh, most promising, the most outgoing child. It needs to be a child who really has a heart for justice and the environment and for inclusion, as well as one whose life story is the message, who him or herself is facing the challenges and her life is the message. And therefore, out of her context of exclusion, she or he could influence policies of the world. Um, Yeah, we in Pratik believe that INDIA is an acronym for an incredible nation dedicated to the inclusion of all. And therefore, what we're trying to do is create a platform that everyone of real India is represented. So if there are children in your classroom who are suffering from a mental challenge or a mental illness, then somebody in that group in Delhi should represent that. If there is a child who is hearing impaired, then we must have hearing impaired children. We have different religions present, and that's the forum we are creating. Um, I will talk about any questions and fears you may have about how to choose children from challenged backgrounds in a while. And the certificates are for adults and children. So I'll just leave you with those comments. We'll come back to more questions later on, but over to the video and over to you, Ram. We will be sharing this video with you and would request you to actually play it for your school students. Send them the link.
Talk about change.
Coverage
They
for
make
this.
it happen. Where every voice from every corner of India. Imagine a world where children don't just talk about change, they make it happen. Where every voice from every corner of India shapes the future of our planet. Introducing the Inclusive United Nations, or IN-U.N, a transformative child-led platform designed by Pratyek. Unlike any model UN you have seen, in UN is a real world space where young people move beyond debates and simulations, directly impacting the world's largest policy on development, set to succeed the UN Sustainable Development Goals in 2030. Grounded in values of inclusion, rights, equity, and multilingualism. IN-U.N brings together 200 children from every corner of India, representing diverse cultures, languages, abilities, and life experiences. This isn't just another model UN. Here, children don't just simulate, they advocate, influence real policies, and experience true inclusion. Participants engage directly with government and UN officials, ambassadors, and change makers. They learn to model real, usable UN mechanisms and advocate for ending poverty, reducing inequality, and reversing climate change. Teamwork is at the heart of IN-UN. Awards focus on team submissions, not individual performances, building collaboration and unity. Join us on 19th and 20th November in Delhi at the historic Gandhi Ashram, Rajghat. Schools can nominate one student from class 8th to 12th and one student from a vulnerable community from age 13 to 17 and one accompanying teacher. From all nominations, 36 schools, one per state and union territory, will be selected for this national forum of learning, leadership, action, and impact. Participation fees cover local travel and food during the event. Please note, travel to Delhi and accommodation are not included. Engage with government and UN officials. Influence the world's largest development policy. Experience true inclusion. Build leadership and advocacy skills. Earn a certificate endorsed by national and international organizations. Be part of a movement where every child's voice matters. Nominate your students. Selected schools will receive further details via email. Let's build a future where every child is heard. Join the Inclusive United Nations, where India's children shape the world.
Thank you, Ram, for the video. So we have some questions that we predicted you may have, and we have tried answering the questions based on the schools who have registered.
Imagine a world where children don't just talk about change. Imagine a world where children don't just talk about change.
May I continue?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So we have some of the questions that, some of the questions were asked to us while the schools were registering. So based on the questions, we have certain, answers prepared, which we will share it right now with you. So basically, travel and accommodation, we would really request the schools to take care for your respective children and as well as teachers. And with regard to food, we would request you to pay for 2 children and 1 teacher, 5,000 rupees needs to be paid. And that we are requesting only for the, food and local travel as mentioned in the video. And as I already mentioned, travel and accommodation, we really request the schools to take care for the teacher and as well as 2 children. This applies to all the schools, including schools from Delhi who would be joining. We would request you to take care of your transportation by yourself and request you to pay for 1 teacher and 2 children, rupees 5,000 for 2 days. And so the role of children in the IN-U.N, many schools were asking that. So it would be to attend online sessions to learn UN mechanisms and use this learning to shape policies on ground, present recommendations to embassies, UN bodies, and government representatives. And also there's one more important thing, which is that we would request your children to have immersion visits. So let me explain you what is this. So your children may want to visit children who are from vulnerable communities and at least engage with them. So probably a visit to an orphanage, a visit to a home where children are affected or maybe impacted by HIV. So those would be the examples of immersions. We would really request your children to engage with that, or maybe your children may want to engage with the community outreach and kindly make a report. We would really request that at the IN-U.N session when you join us.
Excuse me, I have a question. Hi,
Sure, ma'am.
excuse me. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
hi, this is Dr. Bornali. I'm from Hyderabad. So I would like to know that we are asking about the report making. So the students from our school are going to make the report, and at the same time, the other kids whom we have selected, they also need to make the report.
Ma'am, I'll answer that question for you. Thank you for asking the question. Ma'am, it's a
Sure,
very
sir.
simple report. It's just as say we went in so and so place, we engaged with so and these were the feelings and the thoughts that came up to us. It's not a very detailed
Okay,
report. And yes, your students can help the challenged children that you're bringing along to write their report as well. It's very simple.
okay,
Not a photograph will be probably more impactful, provided you keep the privacy and
okay.
the dignity of the children that you're reaching out
Mhm.
intact.
Okay, okay. Sure. One more thing I would like to know, like, do you have any template for that, or how we are going to make the report around it?
We will share the template in a short.
Is there any?
Ma'am, we'll share the template with you.
Okay, okay,
This is only a very preliminary session we're having today. Remember, we're going to have 5 sessions with you and your
okay.
students in preparation, and all the detail will be
Student.
clarified as we go along. Okay?
Okay, so both the students, right?
Yes, yes. Both need to go for this immersion. The reason why we're doing it is
Both,
we want you to represent,
both the students.
we want every child to represent the local context. And sometimes some of our children have never gone out of the
Right.
school campus and they're gated colonies. And for these children,
Okay.
talk about India may not be
Mm-hmm.
the best formula. So that's why we want them
Right.
to put and experience real India.
Okay, okay. Sure. So both the students need to write the report based on any of the orphanage. That is what you are mentioning, right? If I'm
Orphanage,
right.
sure. Orphanage is only an example, but I would invite you to look around
Okay.
you and see which are the most vulnerable children in your context. So
Okay.
go to an NGO that's working with
Right.
children, tribal children, with children with disability, with
Okay.
homeless children, anything.
Okay.
Look out for the most
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable in
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
context and engage with them.
Right. Okay, sure. So do share the template with us so that
Sure.
it will be helpful for us to study and prepare the reports for both of us. Right. And the other kid, excuse me, the other kid who is going to join the orientation, the child who is not from our school, the privileged child, like they are going to get the training in not. I hope the training will be in Hindi language or other languages, right?
No, the training is going to be in English, but translation will be provided in Hindi and
So that child, the child who is underprivileged, they are not able to. I mean, they only understand the local language or Hindi language.
so,
So I am scared that they do not understand English, yeah,
so thank you, ma'am, for making the
properly.
effort to
So that is,
Ma'am, thank you for making the effort to include the most vulnerable, and that would be the challenges that we would have to face.
mhm.
So we will provide translations not only
Okay.
in Hindi, but depending on
Mhm.
the participation
Mhm.
list that we choose, it will also be in
Uh-huh.
other languages, including sign language. We will have to make our
Okay.
platforms as inclusive as possible, but some
Right.
your the child may need an escort or an interpreter
Mm-hmm.
on their side. For example, a child with Down
Mm-hmm.
syndrome or a child with autism may require a
Mm.
special educator or parent to come along on the online platform.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Thank
Fine.
you, ma'am. Thank you.
We'll try to manage
Sure.
that.
And if
Thank you.
anybody
Thank you
has
for
any,
answering the question.
thank you. If anyone has any questions about choosing of children, please feel free to call us individually as well. If you want to know whether the child will totally be included, safe, and participatory. Okay, it's not just presence. We want them to participate fully. So thank you, ma'am, for your question. I'm going to ask the rest of you to wait till Swarna finishes her round of question and answers, and then if you can come up with your questions, because Swarna may already have answers for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. So, uh, I think especially as ma'am was coming up with facilities for children with, Steve was addressing, facilities for children with disabilities would be provided either it be it in the online or on ground platform. But I mean, because IN-U.N ensures equity and inclusivity, but we would really request at your end to mention whatever special needs that your children have in the form itself, in the registration form itself, so that we can actually coordinate for that. And we will coordinate the support in advance for that. Um, so you may have, like, you may wonder how to identify, like, as I told you, if your school cannot identify a grassroots child from the grassroots level, then I told you, Pratyek will facilitate it. But we would appreciate the school contributing 2,000 rupees for the child's food for 2 days, if in case the child is identified by Pratyek. If at all, like, we also had a school asking us a question that what if that child belongs to some other different state to the state that we from which we belong to. So in that case, we would request the school to take care of that child's travel and accommodation too. In such, mostly we would have our partners and NGOs and grassroots level children in your respective states too. So that's one thing. And then uh, with regard to, there was a question which talked about, can people were asking if parents can accompany. I would say each team must have an adult escort. We would prefer, the highest preference would be for staff members. We can allow parents only in exceptional cases. So that would
Swarna,
be
may
our
I
request.
come in here? May I go
Yes,
back to
Steve.
that question? The I go back. Ram, yeah. Ram, please go back. The idea of the escorts is for somebody who can take forward the IN-U.N. The IN-U.N is not an event. It's a learning of a process that we would like schools and children to engage with going forward towards influencing the largest conversation on development, which will affect all of us, whether we like it or not. So, sending a parent, in case a child is severely has a severe disability or severe issue, may be a good idea. But other than that, we want teachers who will take the process forward and spread the message among your entire school. This is not an event.
Thank you, Steve. Moving ahead, you would have, do Delhi schools also need to pay? We would say yes, 5,000 rupees for 2 days of food for one teacher and two children. That we would request the Delhi schools to also pay. And so please do nominate your school, and the nomination form would be, the link to the nomination form would be put into the chat. Those who have already nominated, thank you so much. Those who haven't, we would really request you to nominate yourselves.
The last date for nomination is the 9th of September, which is the 9 is Mind Day. However, if you're still challenged with identifying students and so on, we can leave a bit of a window to change the kinds of students that you are nominating, because in the past, people think of IN-U.N as an MUN and want to send the most eloquent speaker. And we don't need eloquent speakers. We need real life, passionate children and child advocates to come in whose life speaks about the issues of our country. The fees that you're paying is not only for food, because if it was only for food, you'd be expecting a huge banquet at that cost. So what the expenses are for both food as well as logistical expenses of hiring a hall and resource persons fees and so on. As you know, it is nominal given today's expenses, but the children that come from vulnerable communities of our National Inclusive Children's Parliaments will pay all their expenses, because children from vulnerable communities need support for their voices to be amplified and heard. Over to you, Swarna.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So before we move on to the next steps, I would like to hear from you all if you have any questions. I could see a lot of questions as well in the chat. So if you have any questions, kindly, raise them here. Thank you.
I'll answer a few from the chat itself. We will share with you the expenses as a document that we are going to share with you of all the processes we're sharing right now. And how to pay that money also would be shared with you shortly. If you're staying in Delhi, we need you to identify your own place of staying. We put a question mark under Rajghat, even though they're keen on having it there because of the sacredness of that space. The problem we're facing is the kind of session we want to have at the end. The seating arrangement is fixed, and we can't move things around because we want circles of ambassadors, celebrities, UN officials to sit with your children and actually hear firsthand from them itself their recommendations. So we are not here to sieve out and to glean what children must say and not, except if it goes against human rights. So if the children's recommendations are against basic human rights, then we would step in and talk to the children about a human rights perspective. Other than that, children can bring up whatever issues they want in a safe, confidential space. You will be the teachers will be in close to those circles, and if you feel that the child is sharing something that makes him vulnerable, you can step in and tap them on the shoulder or come to us and say, how do we go about this? Because we want the child to be absolutely safe and safe even after the event. If you cannot pay for some reason, please come back to Swarna and make an appeal to them because we really want the most marginalized voice to be heard. Having said that, we have already got the most marginalized from different contexts available to us. But do come back to us because we want to make sure that this forum represents real India. About somebody asked whether you can take children to centers where persons living with leprosy or living with AIDS are. The question would be go back to your principal and ask them whether the school is comfortable with ideas like that. We would hope that children go.
I am switching on this online audio.
Sorry. Matthew, are you saying something? Okay. So, and the Delhi children can come and go every morning. They don't have to stay back anywhere. Okay. Except that it's getting darker earlier in November. So, in the last session, the cultural evening, they can go off home and come back. The second day, when we're trying to get ambassadors, UN officials to be present at the table. At each table, we have different officials where children speak directly to them in their own languages. They can speak in Tamil and Kannada and Khasi, whatever, and sign language. We will ask you and one in the group to make a short summary and present it to the diplomat. So we will really get a flavor of India at this particular platform. Yes, both the students can be from the same school. Just check with us, Ajinkit sir, whether it's the right kind of child. Remember, our emphasis is not eloquence in speaking and winning awards. Our idea is to bring both students together to create a real forum of India. In Delhi, you can come directly from your homes. Breakfast will be from 8 to 9 while we're doing registrations as well. But that's school hours in Delhi, and schools are very used to being in other schools by 8, 8:30, as I know from my experience in Delhi. Any other questions there? And any other questions from anybody while I lean through the chat box?
I'm Lina from special school. What about the participation? Like, I mean, you expect from special schools?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and very important question for us. So if you even notice this platform, we're trying to make it as inclusive as possible. What we do is we recommend that the accompanier is, as far as possible, a trained special educator, and she or he could help us bridge that gap. There would be other children with hearing impairments, so we would have sign language interpreters. And if children have a strong developmental delay or other severe mental challenges, then it's the special educators and the animators who will try and go beyond spoken words and expression to hear what the child is saying in that context. We'll need your help for that. Children with visual impairment and locomotor challenges, I don't think there's going to be a challenge with that. Cerebral palsy and other issues like that are only physical, but the challenge would be children with developmental and mental challenges.
I'm talking about ID, intellectual disabled children.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so we would need your help and the help of the accompaniers to help us bridge that gap. And we would also have special educators in the or in the group anyway. We will have them from Delhi. Delhi, remember, we're focusing on children with disabilities. So would be specialists in our group as well. So that was it Lena asking that question? Have I answered that question?
Actually,
Yeah,
brother, uh,
hello.
Yes, Lena.
Yeah, I don't, your voice was breaking, sir, so I couldn't catch you in between.
So in short, we're saying that we would like your accompanier to be the specialist and the bridge for us. But having said that, there'll be other children from Delhi with intellectual disabilities and who would be having professional accompaniers too.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Angelina,
yes, brother. Actually, I have an urgent work. No, so I'm in travel. Actually, I can't talk properly.
don't worry,
I have
Angelina.
a network
Thank you.
also.
Thank you for being here,
So,
Angelina. Your
next time I will do it, brother.
Yeah, Angelina, your session is tomorrow, not today. You're coming for
Oh,
tomorrow's program, not today's.
tomorrow.
Yes, you have your session tomorrow. Okay?
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
brother.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you.
Jason has asked whether children from orphanages come. For sure, they could come to this. Somebody even asked whether children living in care and protection can come in. Government institutions require tedious norms to be followed.